What, due to experience, do you know not to F with?
Before we continue with the video, please hit a subscribe, likes, and comments to make sure you don't miss our next video.
Number 20. COVID. I used to be a healthy and fit dancer, marathon runner, snowboarder, half-dome hiker, and rock climber. COVID put me in urgent care. The 1 to 2 years following, I got winded walking to the mailbox, had terrible brain fog, and I feel tired all the time no matter how much sleep I get.
Number 19. You ever slide down a staircase on a pillow or a mattress? 10 years old me thought going down headfirst inside a sleeping bag was a great way to up the rush. Turns out, going into shock is not fun.
Number 18. Cat bites. I love cats, but got bit by one once. Spent 3 days in the hospital, and there were talks of amputating 2 of my fingers, and maybe 1/2 of another finger. Had intense 4 antibiotics, and came out fine, but was scary for a couple of days.
Number 17. Meth. Ruined my life for a while, and I had to fight tooth and nail to get it back. 18 months clean. For real, when you hear not to try meth, not even once, heed that warning.
Number 16. Heights. I fell out of a tree when I was a kid and nearly severed my leg. A branch ripped it wide open and to the bone. I had fat and muscle falling out, and I very nearly bled to death. It took hours of surgery and months spent mostly in bed before I was able to really use that leg again. It's been more than 25 years since then, and the scar is still massive, 1/2 inch wide, and wraps all the way around my inner thigh. That fall was only 3 feet. The first reason why I frequently tell people to never underestimate a fall, even a short one. It only takes one accident to completely f you up and potentially kill you, so caution is important. Number 15. Paracetamol. In one of the dumbest moments of my life, I misread 50 milligrams when it was 500 milligrams, took far too much. Long story short, almost a week in hospital.
Number 14. Guns. I was a kid and took my grandpa's gun from a little portable shelf and barely touched the trigger. Bullet went through the closet of one of his rooms. It stopped in the last tie of the closet after putting a hole in all his clothes. Just at the end of the closet was the thin mobile home wall to the living room where all the family was gathered minus the 2 cousins in the same room as me. I'm all for freedom of choice, but guns I've never F with after that.
Number 13. Razor blades. Not from SH, hugs to those that do, but from barbering. I've accidentally closed my straight razor on my hand, once, while thankfully having a medically trained client in my chair and a Winn-Dixie next door. A quick triage session later and I was back to work again. Also, shears. I've lost my middle knuckle more than once while still learning the rules of how not to hold your hands and how far to cut. It's happened so often after a decade I don't even flinch much. Just ooh, that's gonna be a good one based on how stuck the scissors feel.
Number 12. Rose thorns. I picked a bunch of rose hips to make syrup and vinegar. Pain in the butt to do, and there were tiny thorns that scratched my hand. Irritation started traveling along my finger. I was given antibiotics for something unrelated and that cleared it up. Then I talked to a friend who had been helping her friend make rose wreaths for a wedding. She went to one hospital for the pain in her hand and was discharged. When she was being driven home, she passed out from the pain. The second hospital diagnosed a bacterial infection injected to her nerves by a rose thorn. They told her, "We think we can save your hand." They opened up her hand to keep it irrigated for several weeks in the hospital. Told her they usually see this in rose gardeners. They did save her hand.
Number 11. Precipitation when it is cold outside. I got caught in a snowstorm in Shenandoah National Park in March 2019. It was 50 in the valley, but I got 2 feet of snow on the top of the ridge. The forecast did not call for any precipitation that day. I was hiking on the Appalachian Trail and thought that a few flurries were nothing to worry about. I left a lean-to shelter that would have kept me dry and protected from the wind. I hiked less than 6 miles and was struggling to move forward because the snow was so deep. I was soaked to the bone, freezing cold, and beginning to lose fine muscle control in my fingers. The trail followed the side of a ridge and was not providing me any flat spaces to set up a tent. I eventually found a clearing where some power lines crossed the trail and struggled to get my tent erected despite the loss of feeling in my fingers. Once my tent was set up, I got my sleeping pad and sleeping bag deployed, got out of my wet clothes and crawled into the bag for an hour to warm up. I didn't even have a cell signal where I could let someone know my exact location and that I was okay. I had been in contact the previous evening, so my girlfriend knew my location to within a couple of miles. The snowstorm lasted all night and I had to spend a full 24 hours in the tent before the snow stopped. The next day after the snow stopped, I packed up my camp and kept hiking through the 2 feet of snow. The trail crossed Skyline Drive after a short distance and I followed that road for 9 miles to the nearest park entrance. I called a shuttle and spent the night in Waynesboro, Virginia at a hiker hostel. The warm shower, boot dryer, and warm food were exquisite. When you make an error in judgment in the wilderness, the goal is to survive long enough to learn from your mistake. I learned my lesson. I will not screw around when dealing with precipitation and cold weather. If there is any doubt, I will just hunker down and wait for the wet weather to pass.
Number 10. All the dumb shit I've done in my life, my answer is still bugs. If you don't know exactly what a bug is, don't touch it. Wheel bugs look like little harmless dudes and the sting goes all the way into your soul. Assassin bugs are nearly as spicy. Toe biters hurt, but like a tiny bit lower on the scale, it's only unbearable instead of being life-altering. Velvet ants are wasps that look like cute little fuzzy but ants. They call them cow killers, they hurt too. Bad. Very bad. I'm lucky enough to have been dumb enough to pick up all of those things at various points. I will f with most spiders, respectfully of course, without really worrying, only been bit a few times by one that really wasn't feeling things. Random bugs will f you up. Never touch a fuzzy caterpillar.
Number 9. Fire ants. I walked barefoot in soft grass along the side of a golf course in Palm Springs. Fire ants crawled up my feet, thousands of stings all over my feet and ankles. Worse was that I had to drive 13 hours north the next day, with huge swollen feet. They were so swollen that I couldn't even wear flip-flops. I ended up having to see a DR and get 4 antibiotics and a course of steroids due to infection and inflammation. I still have scars on my feet and ankles for years later. Don't mess with those little affairs.
Number 8. Magpies. Just don't. If they get cranky at you, they will tell all their friends. You don't even have to do anything to get them cranky at you. I once had to pay protection in the form of pizza crusts just to be able to walk in front of my place safely after they refused my first offering of a bread end. They take out eyes and can even kill. Don't F with magpie.
Number 7. Being careless in the shower. A few years ago, I was showering and I forgot the new bottle of conditioner sitting in the counter. I slipped on some shampoo residue in a rush to get out of the shower, because no likey cold air. I slammed my ribs against the porcelain tub. Completely knocked the wind out of me, but I somehow managed to crawl out of the shower and bathroom to make it to my phone, genuinely thinking I would have to call an ambulance to take my naked ass to the hospital. Thankfully that wasn't necessary as I laid down and caught my breath, but I had pretty bad rib pain for at least a month after, and only a tiny bruise to show for it. After that experience, I could absolutely see how falling in the shower can kill a person. Anyway, now I don't rush when exiting the shower and I always bring my phone in the bathroom because that naked, wet crawl on the floor to retrieve it was humiliating and I'd rather not go through it again.
Number 6. Drowsy driving. Back in 2015, I had an incident where I fell asleep behind the wheel. It was in mid-August, and I had fallen asleep on my way home from work after a 16-hour night shift because my job messed up the schedule. We couldn't work more than 12 in a single shift. All I remember is I was driving, then I was waking up in a hospital 4 hours away from home. No clue where I was or what happened. I had suffered a major TBI and have been mentally different ever since. Had a pretty major concussion following the accident. It happened in the backroads of southern Idaho, and I was lucky to have come out of it with 0 broken bones. Everyone at the hospital was saying I was lucky to have survived. There were witnesses who saw the whole wreck, a couple high schoolers on their lunch. I read the police report and witness statements, and according to them, my car rolled 6.5 times, ended wheels up, and I was partially ejected, laying half in and half out of the car through the window. My seatbelt buckle had broken as the car was coming to rest.
Number 5. Dogs. Absolutely dogs. Don't get me wrong, dogs are incredible and they have the capacity for so much love and so much good. I think dogs are one of the best things on the planet. But a sick dog or a scared dog or an injured dog or a mentally unstable dog can do an insane amount of damage with its teeth. I work with lots of dogs and got a level 4 bite from a normally perfectly well-behaved dog. She was an angel to work with. Obedient, loving, loyal, gentle, intelligent, and overall everything you could ever want in a dog. She got sick though, and another dog hit one of the areas that was more tender, and the next thing you know she's latching onto the closest thing to her with those teeth, which happened to be my leg. It's called misplaced aggression and is strictly a self-defense response, but boy, this seemingly perfect dog left me with bite scars that will last the rest of my life. The second she realized she bit me as she came out of that fear state she released, and she was mortified. She licked me all over, and the next several times I saw her she licked at my bandages and then my scar. It was obvious she felt awful about it. And yes, the vet proved there was a specific, well, more like multiple specific, health issues that caused this. She had an infection in her vagina and systemic inflammation from an immune system issue, and the other dog fell into her behind area, and I was walking beside her by her head. Anyways, don't mess with dogs. Don't mess with strange dogs. Don't mess with sick dogs. Don't mess with fearful dogs. Don't mess with injured dogs. Take every precaution you can if you are rescuing a dog like this. Better safe than sorry. A level 4 bite was enough to make me second-guess my relationship with my dogs, and my dogs are my whole world. I adore my dogs. Those bites are incredibly traumatic though. They're really painful. I can't even imagine a level 5 bite, mauling, or seeing a level 6 bite killing. We get so used to our friendly, furry companions that it's easy to become complacent about their predatory prowess and their self-defense capacity.
Number 4. My ex's dad was a healthy and still very active man who was about to turn 70. And I mean healthy, lived in a house on a mountain and spent his mornings hiking trails the average person half his age would get winded by. He had literally just retired. He and his wife were about to head out on a long vacation, so he was shutting down the house and noticed a small leak in one of their bathroom's ceiling. Decided to check it out himself. He fell off the ladder and basically ping-ponged his skull the whole way down. Instantly a vegetable. Stayed that way for 8 months before passing. This made me and ex look up ladder injuries, and my takeaway is this: if you're not being paid to be on a ladder, pay someone to be on a ladder for you.
Number 3. Head injuries. I had a single friend that got into a bar room scuffle. He got knocked down, hit his on a tiled floor. Got back up and said that's it for tonight. He lived alone, and that was on a Friday night. When he didn't show for work on Monday with a no call, that raised some eyebrows. When he didn't show on Tuesday, someone went out to his place and broke in after no answer. He was dead on the kitchen floor. Doctor guessed a brain bleed. I think about him every time I see a video of someone getting knocked out.
Number 2. Male lions. Hand-fed one, and my fucking Christ are they huge. I can reach close to 8 foot in height on tiptoes with my arm in the air, and this beast was easily able to stand up to take the food. He didn't even roar. It was a vocalization, a sort of chuffing noise, and it proper hits you in the chest and turns your insides to water. Seriously, I'd blown my ears out on Slayer gigs for decades, but this 37st fella just basically talking to me hit me harder than any riff I'd ever heard. Had the female lions lick blood off my hand. Their tongues are like human biceps, but with added sandpaper. That day changed me. I've never felt more fragile and insignificant.
Number 1. Morphine. After a major surgery 12 years ago, I was administered morphine through and for over a week straight. The post-op pain was so excruciating that they gave me a patient-controlled analgesia pump to medicate myself when it got unbearable. But I was terrified because whenever I used the morphine I began hallucinating like crazy. Those 2 weeks in the ICU I saw demonic figures crawling on the walls, thought the nurses were trying to murder me, and had no idea what was reality or a hallucination, or where I was. But it was either pain that made me want to die, or traumatizing hallucinations with slightly less pain. I never want to be on morphine again.
Thank you for watching. If you like to watch more of these videos, please leave a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, and don't forget to share to your friends and family. I'll see you in the next video.